option. Oh yeah, I think it'll give you the option to get kicked out if you're not comfortable. So Zoom wants you to consent to that. All right, so we might have a couple more people trickle in, but I do want to be sure that we get through some of the information and spend more time on questions if you have any questions that come up. So I will share on my screen, and feel free to stop me when you wish. So thank you for joining our lay leader training. You guys can scroll along. I'm just going to have my screen up so that you can kind of see what, as we kind of go along, because of course I didn't put page numbers on it. So let's see, let Perry in. So as you see, the Christian Education Ministry, which just changed its name from Equipping, which you might have known as Equipping. So if I say Equipping, just know it's synonymous with Christian education. These are the members. So we have Elder Kathy Franz, who will be graduating off of session, rotating off of session this December. Laura Marsh will be stepping on. For currently, we have the two elders. We have Sarah Clemick and Jen Adams, and then me, Lane, and Judy as our staff members. As you see below, these are all the programs that we'll do this year. I worked really hard to get a lot year plan out. And so these are the programs that we have planned. And so depending on, you know, the ebb and flow of the church, things might get added, things might get subtracted. But this is just a really hopeful sign that we have so many people here going through this training, so that we do have the people working with us. So as you can see, the Christian education has 16 weekly programs going on between the 2 grow groups and 6 Sunday schools. So there's just a flourishing of activity. What we are kind of looking at is, as the church looks at their budget and bringing in a pastor, I'm really thinking that staffing might rearrange itself. And so Christian education just might not have Judy and Lane as often or as consistently as we've ever had them before. And so our concern as Christian education is, it seems like the church wants all of these programs, and that's a really great thing. But at this point, we can't be staff heavy anymore. We do need to turn to our lay leaders. We do need to turn to ministers serving with us in the church. So thank you for being here and spending an hour with me online. So FPC's motto is to seek the realm of God. And then I think as Christian education ministry, we seek the realm of God by gathering, growing, guiding, and going. So I'm going with a G theme this year. But I do want to kind of frame it in that we are not the people who gather people, right? We're entrusted by God to gather God's flock of people and who God gives to us. And so it's not the Christian education, it's not FBC, it's not the members, it's God's church. Who grows it? The Bible tells us that Jesus Christ, through the Holy Spirit, grows the ministry. So it's not a mark of our success or our failure if the church isn't growing or shrinking. I think if our ministries aren't growing and shrinking, if we're serving people, they're going to be fed by that. But God is at the front and behind and walking with us through this. So of course, we minister to the congregation of FPC with the neighbors and strangers that we bring in. We serve in the ministry of Christ, right? This is not what we want. I mean, of course, it's what we want. It's how we dictate the programs, but we serve Christ, and we don't serve me, and we don't serve the elders. And I think that it's just a really good perspective, because I think sometimes we can get wrapped up in, if we're a successful leader, if we're a successful teacher, if we teach the kids right, if they remember what we taught them. And I don't think that's what we need to worry about, because I think that God makes that happen. And I think that the Holy Spirit moves in and through us. And what we really want to achieve, right, as FPC, the Christian education, we really want to transform people. We really want their faith to be experienced in deeper and wider ways, right? We want to love people justly. We want to seek a more just world around us. And so we want that realm of God to seek and leach into the communities around us. And so if we really kind of place it in a Bible verse, we do look at that Great Commission, right? That Jesus says when he's resurrected in Matthew, therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the parent, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you. And remember, I'm with you to the end of the age. So when we really look at what a lot of our programs do is we really do that, right? The training to obey everything that I've commanded you. And, okay, that obey language isn't exactly what we like, but that's kind of our piece, right? So as leaders, our job, our real task then, right, when it comes down to it, is to be a safe community where children, youth, and adults can grow in faith. They can ask questions. They can be vulnerable. They can be shy. They can be nervous. They can be anxious, just like leaders can be, right? But it's our job to make a safe community where we can be all of those things. Therefore, it's not our task to grow people, right? Or even our task to guide people, because God goes before us and Christ goes with us. We create those places and the spaces so that we might break God's realm on earth. We become partners with Christ to proclaim the good news, and we follow where the Holy Spirit leads. So basically, the bottom line is you can't mess it up. There are ways, of course, that you can mess it up, but those are the deep, dark places that we have the child protection policy for. So I think that if you were afraid of a child protection policy, then maybe you wouldn't be here. So I thank you for coming. Any questions about that? Cool. Awesome. All right. So I have a couple SMART goals, which Nancy Gardner has invited me to create. And of course I didn't hybrid that. Okay. So what I really want to do is I broke kind of our SMART goals into two halves of the year. So we're going to go semester to from now till December to May. What I really want to do is create this lay leader network, basically. The goal that I have for the next 3 months is that 75% of all total programs will be lay led. So that is where there's spaces for lay leader ministries to be. So that doesn't mean that I'm going to relinquish what I do in grow groups, right? That's not going to be a lay leader led, because that's something that I do as a staff member. There's things that are integral to staff that I'm going to keep preserved. But if you would look down a little bit lower, you would see kind of where those pockets are. And Sunday school is a pocket, youth group is a pocket, pumpkin sitting is a pocket, parents' night out, those things are the things that we need help kind of supporting. So if we had this 75% of total programs, that would enable the church to have more age appropriate Sunday schools, right? Everybody won't just be tossed into one Sunday school. We'll have leaders working with not one-on-one kids, but with chunks of kids. And I think that would make it more fun for each individual kid. I think it would make it more manageable. And I think that is the church that we want to be, right? We want to talk to kids where they're at and not where their brother or sister is at. And so it'll free staffing hours, right? It'll free me to create a network that I can feed leaders, that I can create a supportive structure so that leaders don't get burnt out. So that when you sign up to be a Sunday school teacher or an equipping member or a Christian education member or a youth group leader, I'm not asking you for the rest of your life, right? That I ask you for a year and we do things differently so we don't burn people out. And what I'm hoping is that we see this by December 24th. So to put this in context is that bottom half in May 2022, FPC had 10 weekly programs, right? So we were coming out of COVID. We were coming out of COVID precautions. Of course, we're still in COVID, but we were coming out of COVID precautions. And so we were kind of revving things up. This year, we're really starting to rev up the machine, right? Again, and trying to figure out what church we are now after Sam's departure, during COVID. And, it's just, our church has been through a lot of change. So last May, we had 10 programs, 9 of which were staff led, right? Beginning this September 11th, we'll have 16 weekly programs is what that means. I'm sorry. Weekly programs to reach this. We'll have 16 programs, 16 weeks. What this means is we're going to have 209 lay leader opportunities. And you can kind of see the makeup here. So the bottom line is the goal out of those 209 opportunities, that 157 will be covered. So I'm turning it kind of into a numbers game. But that means, do we have 2 leaders at 4 Sunday school classes each week, right? And that's going to make up that number. Do we have this? I do say that the Dodeca ministry is supporting us. We have most of those pumpkin patch sitting opportunities filled in Dodeca. So I think we're already at almost, I want to say 40 out of.
Matthew, it's time to go.
So any questions about that? Okay, I think it's a pretty hopeful, manageable goal, because I think you all are kind of grinning. So, whether that's because we hear Becca in the background or because this is a manageable goal, I'm going to go with manageable goal. So then what we want to see in our weekly attendance is we want to stabilize and start tracking attendance, right? Not to shame people, not to blame people, but basically so that we know who is our new flock, basically, who's come back from COVID, or who's come back from COVID precautions, who's getting back into the routine after COVID precautions, right? Who are we adding? Who are we missing? And basically my goal of keeping attendance is that when a kid comes 3 weeks in a row and then all of a sudden he's not there, she's not there, what we can do is, as leaders, our Sunday school teachers can write that kid a postcard and say, hey, we miss you. Not as a shaming or a blaming, but basically as a, I noticed you weren't here. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to miss each other. And so what that would mean is that we keep track, we see kind of the patterns of families, not to blame them, but basically to miss them. The leaders might send postcards, and then I might call the parents and say, hey, I noticed that you have been here really consistently and you haven't been here for 3 weeks. Is there anything that we can do as the church? Is there something going on? Or is life just busy? And I just wanted to say hi. So that is kind of, I really want this to be a way for me to support leaders, but then how do we support family members? How do we support people in our ministries? And how do we kind of get more communication flowing? Just to have a pulse on what's actually happening. So in this first year, so basically you see that in this first year, I'm hoping that this will all happen. If you will have led, if you've led anything as a lay leader, in that last week of December, I'm going to send you some sort of not satisfactory kind of stuff, but basically like, what can I do better? How do you need more support? What's working, what's not working? And then we'll rejig it and we'll look into the next semester to see how we can bulk up that system a little bit more. So thank you for running this beta system with me, and we're going to work together to make it happen. Questions, concerns? Okay. So yeah, so this is basically, we're going to start another one from January to May in the upcoming year. So what we are looking at for Sunday mornings, There's a lot of information. We have a lot of different age groups. If you picked up a printed copy, this right here is very pale. You probably can't read it. But that information of the Sunday schools are over here also. What Sunday schools will look like is if you have served at VBX or VBS, this curriculum is like that, where you come in for 5 or 10 minutes where I introduce the topic. There's an incredibly cheesy introduction, and it's fun. We'll do a couple songs, but it'll be a large group gathering so families can come in, and then we're going to break out into classes. So each class will have about 45 minutes to talk, to do the lesson, which we'll talk about, and then we'll come back up at 10 o'clock to do a quick breakfast, which will be breakfast sandwiches or to-go yogurts or just something. And I think this is going to be a really neat thing. We're doing it a little bit opposite to invite more community. So all the youth in these highlighted classes will be learning about the same thing. So in each class, they'll be learning the same topic, but they won't be learning it exactly the same way. But I think what'll be neat is that all the brothers and sisters, all the youth will come up, and they'll probably like gather at one table and they'll talk about what they did. And I think that's a really great opportunity. I also think that's going to be a really fun way that Sunday school teachers can interact with classes of a different group, because you would have taught something in your age group, but if you teach the pre-K through K, you can ask a 6th grader, hey, what did you learn today? Because we did the same thing, and you can have a context for talking. We also might trap, for lack of a better term, some of the coffee drinkers, right? They're going to walk through to get coffee, and they'll at least see the youth, and they'll see the presence of kids, and they'll see kind of the babble before Sunday school or before church. So that's kind of the new breakdown. Questions about that? All right. We're going to be using Spark House Whirl, which is a lectionary Sunday school. So each Sunday, each Sunday, right, the pastor will be brought up with these 4 or 5 different scriptures. And it's possible that if, so our scripture that we're going to be teaching on is one of the options for the pastor preaching. So I think probably, I hope more often than not, the pastor will actually be preaching on what the youth have learned and the children have learned that Sunday. So I think that's just another parallel, which I think would be great. I will spell out those lessons. The lessons are great. It's just a 2-page easy thing, which I can send copies with. Each kid has a pamphlet. Each kid will get a coloring page. And then of course, there's all the craft stuff that I will get into each of your classrooms. There's also a video for each class, which is 4 to 5 minutes. So if you're a Sunday school teacher, I'm going to make sure next week that all of your technology works, and I'm going to make sure that there is very simple directions to run those DVDs or those videos. And those are with these little comic guys, and they come out and introduce a down to earth kind of story. And then that's kind of your jumping off board into your class. And then each class is going to have a walkie-talkie. So each class will have a walkie-talkie that's directed to me. I'm going to be a floater. I'm going to be making sure breakfast sandwiches are hot. I'm going to be making sure everybody has what they need. But I'm also happy to, if little Jimmy needs to go to the bathroom, I'm happy to take little Jimmy to the bathroom, because if one leader leaves, you'll only have one leader, of course. You'll split your leaders. And so I'm willing to be that floater. Each week is the same thing. Over here, we see these components. There's a large group opening, which is what I talked about. And then there's a breakout, welcome, hear, respond, and launch. So each week you're going to come in, it's going to be that exact same pattern. There's going to be time limits. The times when you add all these 4 components up makes 50 minutes. We've made it a little bit shorter to 45 minutes, because I think more often than not, you're going to run short on activities and longer on time. If and when that happens, sometimes the kids will come in and they'll be tired, and sometimes the kids will come in and just want to run around, right? And we know this. You can just build relationships, right? You can play Simon Says, because the kids are just not going to listen no matter what you did. You can stand on the table and scream and they're not going to listen. So maybe you just play Simon Says, or maybe you play Thumbs Up, or maybe you just spend more time asking questions about school and family. Because like people say, right, people won't remember what you said, they'll remember how they made you feel. So I think that, of course, we want to teach kind of these truths, but I think we want to build relationships with those kids, with those youth. And we really want to be the people that they can talk to when they come to church, in those safe places, even when they're not in their Sunday school classrooms. Does that, Oliver just walked by with a banana. I'm sorry. Does that make sense? Okay. Classrooms are creation station for the little ones. That's where you were VBX. First through fifth graders, we're going to put in room 14, which is across from the nursery, and that has a TV, so that'll be really easy to plug and play. If we get to a point, this is going to be a discussion, but if we get to a point where we need to add another group, what we would do is we would split that first through fifth into like first through third and fourth. Like we would split that group in half, because that's still a big age spread. Then we would move them to the beach room and the art room. So we would split the two classes across those two rooms. Those younger kids are going to meet in, or the oldest kids are going to meet in 6th through 8th is going to meet in the young youth room, which is the regular youth room. The person who gave money to refurbish, to redo, to buy the couches and the technology was the Young Fund. So that's why it's called the Young Youth Room, not that it's a junior and a senior youth room. So if you ever get confused, it's a name and not the size of the room or the size of the kid that goes in there. Our high school class is going to be different. Basically, our high school Sunday school is going to be if they show up, because we had so many seniors graduate, and that was really the bulk of those ages. Right now, after the coming out of kind of COVID precautions, we have 2, maybe 3 girls in high school that I think will be consistent at youth group on Wednesday night. I don't know how consistent they're going to be on a Sunday morning. So what I really need is somebody who consistently goes to church, is willing to step out of emotion, like to step out of like the wired word, and basically be on call to make relationships. And so oh yeah, you want to say hi? So if there is, if there's somebody who says, I'm going to be there anyway, I can be a substitute, but I wouldn't mind if and when those youth come. The goal, of course, is to make them more consistent. And so I just don't know what to expect with them. So if that's you and you're like, I can be that, but I really like the wired word, or I really like reaffirmation with Lane. Like I know Leah Tweedy's going to do this, and I think that's going to be a great person to do that. And so if you're interested in kind of one of those kind of hybrid, yes, a youth group leader, a Sunday school teacher, but not an impromptu mentor Sunday school teacher, I think is what I'm looking for that. How this is all going to work is there's going to be a team. Teams will be 4 to 6 leaders, and basically within your teams, you're going to set the schedule, and you're going to set who serves with who. So there's going to be 4 people, and A and B can work together, and C and D can work together, and then A and C can work together, right? You guys can mesh around. So you don't always have to work with the same people. Within your group, you might want to have strategy, right? I think what we'll see is maybe those younger kids, those especially K through pre-K and K, really want to have somebody for like a month straight. And so that might be something that you talk about in your group. Can you do weeks? And then of course, 6th through 8th graders might not care if you come every 4 weeks, right? Maybe, yeah, every person just takes the first, second, third week. Then what we're hoping for is one leader will basically be sacrificed, and this is not the right term, but they will step into doing an additional training. It's called Safe Gatherings. It's an in-depth child protection. If you're a teacher, you've done this 7 million times. But it's a 2-hour training that the church will pay for. It tells you about those deep, dark ways that you could screw up. It gives you the red flags, those orange flags, the warning signs that you look out for. And so I think we agreed, the Child Protection Task Force agreed, which I'm not on, it's equipping members, but they decided that this would be the best hybrid. Instead of making everybody sit through 2 hours, having one person that really knew what they were looking for. So we'll talk more about that, but then what we will do is there's going to be a team binder. So each team will have a binder. It's going to be very color coded with the colors that you see up here. So your pre-K through K, you're going to have a green binder because Nancy Gardner says she wanted green in that class. So, so in that, there's going to be different sections. The purpose of this binder is this is the way that you are going to communicate with me. There's going to be pamphlets in there. Each month you'll have a printed copy. I will email you electronic copies of your lessons the Wednesday before, but this is going to be a printed copy if you don't have a printer or you just read it beforehand and you just come in and it's printed for you. There's going to be copies of medical forms for each participant. So you will see that information or some portion of that, right? I don't think you need insurance cards, but you might want to know mom and dad's phone number. You might need to know that little Jimmy has a milk allergy. So if somebody brings an ice cream for Sunday school, maybe little Jimmy doesn't have that, right? So those are going to be something that you have. There's going to be a copy of the child and youth protection policy. So what you have, I sent to you, is going to be printed in there. So if all of a sudden you count kids and you say, oh, there's 2 leaders and maybe we need a 3rd one. I don't remember what the number count is. That'll be there. For the child protection policy, there is something called incident form. And then there's going to be the weekly feedback forms and the attendance things. So the weekly feedback form is what I'm going to ask each set of leaders to do each week. So this is basically, how did the class go? What red flags did you see? What did somebody mention? What should I follow up on? What didn't work? You never ever want to play with Play-Doh ever again, right? All those things you can tell me. Because I'm just going to say, if you see me on a Sunday, if you have seen me on a Sunday, you might notice that I look a little crazy, and it's because there's a lot of things happening. If you want to share anything with me, the safest way to do it is to put a note in that team binder. Then what I'm going to do on Monday is I'm going to go through each team binder, take out that feedback. I'll follow up with you. I'll make sure that everything went well. And then we'll just keep that kind of in Christian education so that we can get better at helping you. I'm going to make sure that everything is in your classrooms. All the materials of what you need are in your classroom. Things are prepped for you. Basically, if you were at VBX, you would kind of know that's the set. So I'm going to have everything set up for you. So does that make sense? All of that? Okay. So what this looks like is tomorrow. If you have an age group in mind of what Sunday school you want to serve, can you type that into the chat? Or email me, or text me or call me, or I'm hoping by tomorrow I'll set the groups. So I'll send an email out by this Thursday, I really want the groups to tell me who will be the person to do the extra training, that 2-hour safe gatherings. So tomorrow I'll let you know. I'll send out emails to the 4 people in your group or 6 people in your group, and then ask you who's going to be it to take that. Your permission for background forms, which is in that child protection policy, must be returned by Sunday, hopefully on Sunday, or you can drop it off beforehand. This is so we don't stress Tammy Foster out, because nobody wants a stressed out Tammy Foster. So everybody must have their child or that signed, just so we could do a background check on you. And then next week, everything is going to be set up in classrooms. Everything's going to be organized and in your binders in your classroom. So you're welcome to come walk the church, see your classroom. By Sunday, September 11th, I'm hoping that all or most of the leaders should be there, just so we can say, hey, what are we, just so you can meet kids and you can say, hey, how's it going? And then this would be when the leaders who work together put the schedules and give the schedules to you. Nancy, you have your hand raised.
I do.
Yeah.
If we filled out a child protection background check for VBX, that should be good, right?
Yes, if you filled one out for VBX, you should be good. We do it once every year. So you would do it next August. So you're covered by that. Thank you. That's a great question. The weeks that you are there, the weeks that you serve, this Tuesday before you lead, I'm going to ask you to set a schedule until Christmas or until Advent. So you might get an email Tuesday, November 6th or whatever Tuesday is, in a couple months, and say, hey, do you remember that you're still doing this? Is this something you still want to do, or does life happen and do we need to get a substitute? You say, yeah, it's on my calendar, I can do it. By that Wednesday, I'll send you the lesson plan for Sunday. I do take Fridays as my Sabbath. So if you look through it, questions should be given to me by Thursday on email. Other than that, you can call me or text me, and my information is in the My Church Life app. So, and then please arrive by 8:45. Basically, so you can check in with your co-leader. You can be there to welcome your children and youth in. And also just to make sure that, like, I didn't put the 6th grade supplies in the kindergarten classroom, right? You just want to make sure that everything you expect to be there is there. And then you're going to leave your weekly feedback form. Okay, make sense? Okay. Then there's so much information. This is just for you to figure out, a reiteration of everything we talked about, or I figure out. Jamie, this is going to really work for you. We did change the times. We pushed everything back a half hour because Leah stepped out. We are pushing things back. There is a potential that we're going to have 14 youth in that younger youth group. That is an additional 6 youth.
I'm ready for it.
You're here. Yeah.
I'm ready for it.
It's going to be
excited.
It's going to be chaos. I don't know. There's going to be a lot of youth. It's going to be great.
I'm excited.
But 14 is a great number.
It is.
Hoping to have that gravitational pull. We're hoping to keep growing that age group, because that's the age group that's going to invite their friends the most. And that's what we're trying to do kind of across the board.
Yeah.
That would just be bananas. And so Sunday evenings, instead of youth group dinner, we're going to go to intergenerational dinner. That's going to be the intersection of Grow Groups and Jeremiah Justice. So that's going to be the intersection of those 2 programs. So adults will be having dinner at the same time as the children and the youth. So that's going to be a really nice time. I don't know exactly how many people then. There is going to be this potluck meal each month. So everybody brings a potluck. But this is also a great opportunity. And Meg, just because you're on my screen, I'm going to use you as an example. Meg hasn't figured out what she wants to feed her kids on a Sunday night, and she just happens to know it's a potluck meal, but she has leftovers of a great big salad, so she can bring her kids and her leftover salad to church and eat with everybody. So that is going to be open to the whole community to come. You don't have to actually go to those programs. If you just kind of want to see the chaos that is Sunday night or youth group dinner, this is a great opportunity to really see. I mean, and honestly, this might be a time that you really see youth that might not come to church every week. So you might see youth that you have never seen before at church service, and it's only because they're really nighttime kids at youth group. So if you want a true kind of pulse on what the youth are of our church, that's a good time to come. Rules: Anna will eat your phone if you have a phone out at dinner. We respect when other people are sharing their highs and lows, and everybody's going to get a special happy birthday song when they have their birthday. Questions about that? Pretty self-explanatory. This year, we're doing a youth group big event with the UCC Congregational Church. This is with Ames Malsbury's mom, who's the Christian educator over there. So each month after or before the potluck dinner, we'll have these kind of breakouts and meet from 3 to 5. If you're doing this, you get an extra G. You get gather, game, guide, and go. You get a G for a game. And yes, I'm working really hard to keep the G's because I think it's important. And then parents' night out. Parents' night out is when parents drop their kids off and parents go out, and they can go out to dinner, and they can go out to eat, and they can go out to clean, and they can go out to like play video games, right? Like, I don't care. They can do whatever they want. But we need probably 3 grown-ups, 3 adults for that age time. I am putting these RSVP times on it so that basically what I need to know is it going to run that month? If we don't have the 3 kind of grown-ups, it's not going to run for that month. And I don't think that's a failure. I think that's just kind of getting the bump off the ground as we get into routines, as we get into life, as we get into new age groups. This first one, this Friday, September 16th, might be a little bit easier in a way because Brent, Morgan, and I will be doing the youth lock-in at that same time. So we probably only need 2 adults that day because it's going to be a lot more. It's going to be 7th graders, Brent and I, and then whoever comes to parents' night out. You can also put that in the chat if you are interested in being a Sunday school teacher and a parents' night out. Just put whatever you want to do in the chat or send me an email. What that looks like is kids get dropped off, you have dinner, there's playtime, there's parent pickup. I'm hoping each month we'll have a different activity. Like I know, Nancy, you did painting pumpkins, and if we have the pumpkin patch in October, we'll do something like that. Who to contact if you can't get a hold of the 3 staff members. Here's Kathy and Laura's emails. Any question about anything in this packet? Okay. I know it's kind of self-explanatory, but I think there's enough subtle changes. The next thing is, oh my gosh, my Zoom bar is right over my tabs. Okay. Wow. The child and youth protection policy. The really important part is, who does this apply? This applies to everybody, everybody at this meeting. If we look at the definitions, a child is birth to 6th grade and a youth is 7th to 12th grade. The difference really, when it's boiled down, is children need 2 adults, but their gender is not defined. So we can have, for instance, up to 6th grade, we can have 2 females teaching a Sunday school. When we get to youth from 7th grade to 12th grade, we need a male and a female if there are male and female students. The Christian education ministry knows that this is binary language that as a church we want to move away from. So that is kind of the red flag of this, and not red flag, but I think if we want to be an inclusive LGBT community, we need to move away from that binary language. But since it's in the policy, I'm going to teach it to you. We really want all the volunteers to be someone who's been in the community for 6 months, just so you're not a stranger. Any activity or event hosted, whether on church. So anything that me, Lane, or Judy are at, this applies to, I think, as long as there's a staff member. You can read it. The really big thing, Brent and Jamie, I think you guys should read it a little bit more, just because there's going to be like, Brent, you're going to have to know sleeping stuff. Boys sleep in one room, girls sleep in the other room. I think a lot of it is sensical. That September 11th, every family will come and fill out a medical information form. So when family will, that week, that September 11th, the Sunday school teachers will have breakfast all together. We'll send the youth down with their Sunday school teachers to play like name games and play getting to know you games. And then all sit with parents and say, these are the forms we need you to fill out. This is kind of the new structure. But the ratios are what's going to be important for us. There's a couple kind of bottom line things. The bottom line thing is when it's birth to kindergarten, we need 1 to 4 adults present at all times. So if for some reason we're getting 12 pre-K and K kids, we need another adult in that Sunday school. I don't foresee that happening, but I mean, that would be a miracle. That'd be really neat. But then we get to 1st through 8th grade, that's 1 to 5. I don't know whether we'll have a group bigger than that, but that might be an issue when we get to youth group, right? If we have 14 kids, that's right on the line. We might need, and we have 4 leaders for that group that will rotate through or however they want. And then grades, as you get older, you get a little bit, the proportions get wider. So 1 through 7. If there's male students, you must have male, female students, you must have a female, unless the parents are called and told. If there's all 7th graders and the male person is sick, I could call every single parent and say, hey, there are only 2 females. Are you okay with that? So not at like a sleepover. We would only do that for like an hour-long confirmation meeting. We always need to have 2. And the other kind of bottom line thing is here, you never want to be alone with a child or a youth. Basically that makes you vulnerable. God forbid you're alone with a kid and the kid walks out and says, they hit me. It's your word against a kid's word. We don't want that at all to happen. We always want to make sure there's 2 adults. If there's some, like your Sunday school teacher has to go to the bathroom, you can either radio me and I can come step in, or you leave the door open. So if and when another adult walks by, they can look in, or God forbid somebody has an allergic reaction, you can call for help and somebody can help you because they can hear you because the door is open. We also want to be very aware of where our boundaries end, right? We are not trained medical people. We are not trained psychological people. Like we're ministers and we're pastors and we're wonderfully kind church family members, but we are not psychologists and we're not police. You know, those are the boundaries we want to keep. You can read all of this overnight, social media, part of each child protection, each medical form, the parent has to sign their initials if we can use their pictures, like in the newsletter, online. If they're sick, the discipline policy is we never ever hit a kid, of course. never handle inappropriate behavior with physical punishment. We talk to that youth. And then we just, you bring it up to me, we kind of separate the kid. On Sunday morning, the parent should be around, or the parent is close by grocery shopping. With youth group, that goes a little bit bigger and wider. But basically, I should always know if there's an issue. You're going to handle a kindergartner hitting differently than you're going to handle a 7th grader hitting, right? And so I think we all know appropriate discipline. And so we just never hurt a kid. If there's an incident, we just keep a record of it, just so we know, God forbid, Timmy hit Johnny. Johnny 3 days later has a concussion. We can prove that this was not the causation, right? And we want to keep that, but we also want to know that like a day later I can call and say, hey, how's Timmy? And we want to be able that care. The following acts are prohibited. When I say prohibited, you probably know exactly what this list is, right? We don't want any of that. If there is a terrible incident report, right? If there's something inappropriate that happens, we immediately report it. If it's that bad, we'll report it to the authorities. But we talk about it. We tell the pastor immediately when there's a situation. We never want to surprise a pastor. If you were to come to me and say, this child has warning signs of abuse, I would take you probably straight to the pastor and keep you there within all the discussions. And then this is the form that you'll need to fill out before this next Sunday, this disclosure. So Tammy Foster has printed a couple of these. If you have a printer, we just need these last couple pages. Have you ever been convicted of a serious misdemeanor? Have you ever been a perpetrator? Are you a member? Are you a member is not a make or break question. Some people have not, like Jeremy Faden is not a member of the church, and he went on the mission trip with me this summer. So that's not a make or break. I think it's just our awareness. And then code of conduct, basically your covenant that you won't hurt a kid, and that you will take care of yourself, and that you will, care and steward our property. And then this is what the incident report is. And Otto, we'll have our youth group leaders sign this out. This is what so you guys can scroll through this. I think it's all pretty self-explanatory. Questions about this and anything that we've gone over? Any concerns or fears? Emily says no, but she's not going to be held responsible for this information. So
can we just sign these forms, come in and sign them then, or what's your preferred mode?
Yeah, so my screen got really little. Meg, if that is your question, you're good because you went to VBX. So
I love that answer.
You don't have to worry about it. Jane, you're raising your hand. I see you. What's up? Oh, and you're muted, I still think. I can't hear you.
Thank you. I just wanted to make the comment that this is something I had to teach when I was at the College of Ed.
Yes.
And it's good to remember that 1 in 25 children are physically abused.
Yes.
These things are not uncommon.
Nope.
Pedophiles, we've had pedophiles at Hoover, at our church, at Regina several times. Unfortunately, these things are not uncommon. Yep. If you see something that, and you think, well, I'm sure it's nothing, do report it. You could be saving a little kid from something. And the kind of people who do these things are very good at, people think they're just the nicest, greatest people in the world.
And I think that's a great great thread to lift out, Jane, because I think it becomes even more important if we want to be a safe place, right? We want to be vigilant. We want to be able to see that. But on the other hand, I think that we do have really educated and professional teachers and people that have gone through these trainings and, God forbid, have been through these situations. So if you even get a sense of being, oh, Emily Sheets, you need to respect books. So if you have even a sense of, I feel a little uncomfortable, I think that would be something that we drag you to see Nancy Gardner or Jane Cranston or one of these teachers in the bones of their marrow, right? And we just talk it out. I think those are the ways that we want to communicate too. So it doesn't hurt. Jamie, are you raising your hand?
Yes, I am. I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand with the
can't
raise
either.
hands. I was like, I'm actually going to physically raise my hand.
I like it.
I am a female leader, I guess.
I know. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's all the discussion that
Yeah,
we've had, this very long discussion.
it's okay. It's okay, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I just wanted to remind everyone that I'm non-binary, everyone. My pronouns are they, them.
Yeah.
So if you're talking about me, please use those pronouns. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie. I think that's a really good discussion too, because we have youth that are trying to figure out their sexual identity, their sexual orientation,
Gender,
their
yeah.
gender, right? Their how they present. And so we always want to be sensitive about that.
And I'll be wearing my pin and everything. I always wear it, and but it's just, that's kind of a hard thing. But I know there's not, it's a safety thing, and there's only so many like physical options.
Yeah.
And legal options currently in the state of Iowa also. So but I just wanted to like remind the folks who are here.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about me, if you haven't been around, we haven't talked in a while.
Yeah.
Just letting you know.
And our new nursery supervisor also goes by they, them. So
Awesome. Cool beans.
I want to be aware that they are coming and they are them and they, just like Jamie are they and them. And if you
Appreciate
have
it.
questions about that, I'm happy to walk you through it just so Jamie doesn't have to. We had a really good discussion in the summer AJ Levine study a couple of weeks ago. So that was a very powerful conversation.
That's what Sally said. So
Yeah.
that was good. That
Good.
made me happy.
Yeah, that was a really good and honest conversation. So Nancy, I saw your hand.
Yeah. So could you kind of review? I didn't have a really good understanding of I put down in the chat that I want to do pre-K. So so when we find out who all wants to do pre-K, because everybody should want to do pre-K. So when we get that, so you'll give us those names so that we have enough time to meet together and get our schedule together. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So I'm hoping that I can facilitate that in some way. So I'm going to send out an email to like Nancy and Meg. I think you're both pre-K. I think you're both that younger group. So I'm going to send it out to you and Meg and whoever else. And then I'll say who wants to be our leader. And then maybe somebody says, I'll put the dates together. Can you tell me when you're not going to be there? So maybe that's two different people. Maybe you email back and forth. Maybe you say, hey, Anna, can you set us up a Zoom time? Maybe you meet and just pull off a table on Ryerson and you just kind of sit and talk after church for a couple minutes.
Mhm.
So if for some reason you're not getting to get, like, if all of a sudden, like, we've hit 3 teachers and 1 parent and everybody's running in 17 different directions and there's just no possible way, you just send me when you can't be there and I'll probably put together a schedule and send it out for your team's approval. But as much as you can, I'm hoping that our teams can do that, just so basically they learn how to be a team. I think that's part of all the discussion of communication.
Right. So, I mean, like what I'm envisioning is once you hear from everybody, when you hear from everybody, which you want to hear by when?
I'm hoping by September 11th. So that first Sunday, will be just a welcome. So if all 4 or 6 leaders are there for Sunday school, I'm going to send you down to your room to do the name game or some sort of like icebreaker game. And then, so the schedule will basically, who's going to teach next week.
Okay.
And then
Here's what I'm thinking is that if like, so if Megan and I are doing pre-K, Megan, you're in on that, right?
We'll own it. We'll be good.
Okay. So then if we knew other people like ahead of time, we could just sit down and crank that all out.
Yeah.
And then just tell you.
Yes.
And then we're good. Okay.
So my hope, my very incredible hope is that tomorrow I'm going to sit down and put everybody together into teams.
Got it.
And hopefully 4 of each of you have said, I'm going to join this, and it's going to be very simple for me to just put you in your lane, right? That's going to be my hope. And then by tomorrow, hopefully night, I'll be able to say, here's your group. So hopefully you'll know by August 30th, and then hopefully by September 11th, I would have that kind of schedule.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
So, because I think it helps some people plan if they know that they're going to be doing it October 30th. Some people just want to plan that way. So
Okay. That sounds good.
we are at time. I don't want to cut off any questions, but I want to respect time. So if you do have to leave, you are excused. Yes, Luann.
I'm still just a little confused about when, so the parents, if they're going to drop their children off for Sunday school and leave, they drop them off at 9 o'clock.
Mhm.
And then when are they told to come back for them?
So typically they would come back. We're going to say by 10 o'clock.
So that they're part of the breakfast.
So that they're part of breakfast, right?
Okay.
I don't think that, like, I'm not going to expect you to supervise children at breakfast. I think that maybe naturally you might want to do that. I think that is totally okay. I also think there's going to be a lot of adults there, because then all the adult classes will pour into that for breakfast too. So there'll be a lot of different adults, a lot of hands. And so it's possible. Sometimes parents will just say, I'm going to go grocery shopping real quick and pick up a couple things. And that's the reason why they'll kind of sneak out. I think once we get those adult programs, more often than not, the adults will stay in the building.
Right.
And I'm hoping that we do have the nursery open at 9 o'clock. So those little ones, especially that pre-K to K group, if you have little ones that then are just not paying attention, you can always put them in the nursery. So any age from 5 and under can go to the nursery. So that's an option for those little ones. Worst case scenario, a Sunday school kid is acting out, they come up and make breakfast with me. I'll teach them how to do dishes. So, which some kids love, and it's not very much of a threat, but it's threatening as I get. So, all right. Any last questions, concerns, fear? We do have a couple weeks before this starts. So what I told the group last night is I'm just building this framework. And so things are just changing slightly, but there might be things that I'm missing, or things that you see can be improved, or this is not my program or Christian education. This is going to be collaborative. And so if there's something that should be added or subtracted or expanded on, you guys let me know and keep me updated, right? This is just going to be a living process as we figure out how I can be the best leader for our Sunday school teachers and our youth group leaders, how I can feed you and not drain you, and basically how much you love the kids, or all of a sudden you really hate those pre-K through K kids and you really want the 6th through 8th grade kids. And those are all the things that we're going to stretch out to. Nancy's acting like that's never going to happen. But so yes, any thoughts, concerns? Okay. Feel free to email me and call me, text me if you have a problem. This will be recorded. It is recording. And so we will get it online for the people that have missed, which is fine. Thank you all for making that happen. So let me pray us out and then you are free to go. Dear Father and Mother God, we thank you so much for the opportunity that you set before us to step into ministry with you. We step into ministry as the hands and feet of your child, Jesus, as we follow the Holy Spirit, as we seek the Holy Spirit's impact through our lives. Lord, I thank you for each of these leaders that have stepped up in their vulnerability, in their excitement, in their fear, in their trepidation, in just their eagerness to be around each other again. And I'm just so thankful that you make space for all of those emotions. I ask you to anoint us with the care and the loving grace that you wish each child, each youth, and each adult to be loved with and wrapped in, that FPC becomes a place for each and every person to feel comfortable and safe in who exactly they are and who you have created them to be. And so I ask you to bless us and keep us this night and as we serve, and just be with us as we continue to grow Jesus's ministry in our presence. We ask all these things in your name. Amen. All right. Thank you all. Have a wonderful night. And again, email me if you have any questions. Hi, Huey.
Hi.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna.
Thanks, guys.
Good night.
Bye.